Yeah, and I have like a funny anecdote, and this is just sort of like the first example I can think of, but so there's this band that I love, they're called the Parrots, they're from Madrid, and they're kind of a garagey rock band, and they've been around for a while, and then they've come, I've invited them to South by a couple of times, and then this band Heinz came on the scene. This is like all girl Spanish from Madrid, garagey band, and they actually kind of played in the same scene and were inspired. I think at the time, actually, like the Parrots were their boyfriends. You know, like I'm not even kidding. So then they come on and like, oh, we made a song, and the world goes crazy. So they come to South by, and everybody falls in love with them. And so retroactively, people start looking at Madrid music scene for this particular genre of music, and they start looking at these bands like Parrots and Los Nasties and the precursors of Heinz, but thinking that they're like there's this next wave of things going on. And so a UK label reaches out to Parrots, and they start negotiating, and they want to sign this label. Heavenly then decides they want to sign the Parrots. None of them ever meet. They haven't seen each other in person. This is all, you know, via email and whatever. And so it's South by Southwest, 2016. Their Parrots are playing. Heavenly Records label manager's going to be there. And technically the deal's done, right? But it's not. They're meeting for the first time. They're going to see them live for the first time at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. It has nothing to do with Madrid or London, but they come there, they play, they sign the contract on a pool table in the corner of the venue, and voila, you know, and like that's kind of the thing. It's really, you know, it's all of the parts coming together, but in this one location. It doesn't have to be specific, and it doesn't have, you know, some of it's a slow climb, some of it's going to be informed by other trends, and some of it is just literally the convenience of being like, well, we know this thing's happening here in March, so let's just meet there, you know?
So I think maybe we've probably taken up a lot of time talking. Maybe we should just open it up for questions. And if you don't ask a lot of questions, I'm going to put anybody on the spot in this room who has already played South by Southwest to give their personal experiences. So hopefully we have a lot of questions. I think that they're coming with mics for people with questions, right? Yeah? Yeah, oh, I'm supposed to tell you that if you prefer to ask your questions in Portuguese, Stacey and Mark are both on headsets, and they'll get the translation. So just you know, speak wherever you feel most comfortable is fine.
Ok, oi. Eu aqui. Meu nome é Eugênio de Castro, sou de Belo Horizonte. Tenho uma distribuidora de música chamada Quai. Eu queria perguntar o que é necessário para entrar no mercado de música para filmes e games. Se South by South é um bom lugar para começar isso.
Okay. He wanted. No. Okay. No, what he said was, so he's a publisher from Belo Horizonte, and he wants to know how can he get to the music supervisors with games, e que mais jogos and films at South by Southwest.
Okay, well, the music supervisors, many music supervisors are there. Actually, quite a bit of the publishing industry is at South by Southwest. For me, it's a matter of understanding the nature of music supervisors. And because I don't know what kind of music that you're involved in. There's a certain kind of music supervisor. I like to call them the KCRW music supervisor because many of them are DJs on the radio station KCRW in Los Angeles. And these are people who are tastemakers. They fancy themselves as tastemakers, and they legitimately are. And they like to scout out for stuff that nobody knows, stuff that's on very interesting blogs. The band Heinz or the previous band of Boyfriends. They're looking for what's next to put in their projects, and they know what's in their mind. They know what TV shows they're working on, what films they're working on, and they're scouting for things that are that could be completely unknown. It could be a band. It could be a band from Brazil that they might read about in a blog, and they go see them and fall in love with a song, and they can put that song in a movie like that. One of the things, though, that's very, very important to all of you guys is they cannot license a track if there is no publishing information. So your compositions have to be registered with your PROs. There has to be a way for royalties to flow, because a big company cannot license it unless that structure exists.
What if we're talking about, I'm guessing in his
But-
case, we might be talking about recorded catalogs of
Okay.
recorded music.
Yeah, now that's a more complicated scenario at South by Southwest, because some of these people are there. You would probably have to reach out to these people and ask them for meetings, because these are people who work with catalogs of music. This is a kind of supervisor that might actually pitch off of a brief. Ad agency has a car commercial, needs song that sounds like X. You may have one. That's probably in reality, the reason that they're at South by Southwest is probably actually not really to do this. They're probably at South by Southwest to figure out, to kind of scout what's really cool going on, what's new going on. So you could be, on that part, I'd say the reality is you would have to actually do your homework, find out who these people are, reach out to them for meetings, explain what your company does. You have certain kind of catalog, you have MPB catalog, you have Bossa Nova catalog, Samba catalog, Jazz catalog, whatever. And you want to try to get on their radar and see if there's a way that you could do business together.
Yeah, and there would also be probably at least 1 or 2 panels
Yeah,
on music
I was gonna
supervision,
say.
probably by genre, whether it's gaming or whether it's films or television or even products, brands. And the thing is, it's such a casual atmosphere in Austin that if you go to the panel, you can easily talk with the person before or after, have a coffee, you can make those connections. And I would also say that with the work that Apex does with South by Southwest, there are opportunities there to have some help with making those connections.
Well,
Yeah.
and the second, I mean, in addition to that, so in the same way that this is organized, where we have panels here, there's hundreds of panels in the day at South by Southwest. So just like everything that's here, like multiply it times 2,000. It's enormous. People like it or people complain about it, but it's big. And so there's always going to be an opportunity to, if you do your research, like they're both saying in advance, if you kind of know, even if you don't know the people, but you know the names of those companies, you can see who's speaking on certain panels. You can find panels that are specific to that kind of licensing that you're looking for to hopefully interact with those people after the panel's over. There's also mentor programs, and they often will include supervisors where you can sign up in advance for round tables specifically with that kind of a professional. And then there are parties and mixers and
That's
whatever.
good.
And this is really important that you just do the networking. And if you're registered with your badge, we have a digital, a social platform called South by Social, where you can also literally search for people, other registrants, and try to contact them that way. But even if you're not communicating through it, you can at least find out if they're going to be there or not.
Yes, I actually have a catalog with 5,000 tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, from Minas Gerais, from fresh music
Yeah, and
from
there are
there.
companies also that,
It's-
so some of them are even Texas-based companies that look to have pre-cleared catalog of certain kinds of music, and some of the names are sort of escaping me, but there are a lot of people that do this kind of business, and a lot of them are at South by Southwest, and that's what
That's
their
another route,
business
yeah.
is
Yeah.
pre-cleared.
And if you
catalog.
want to ask more, you could see me afterwards and we can
Okay,
exchange
thank you very
contacts.
much.
Okay, yeah. Next. There we go.
Oh, hi there. My name is Jonathan. I have a question actually for Mark, but I would love if Stacey can jump into some of the answer. I produce and manage some bands here in Brazil. I have an indie label, and all the acts have been refused for the last 4 years to play in South by Southwest. But as
Is that why you don't want to
That's why
ask
you're asking
me?
me.
no, it's okay. But as we have a say here in Brazil, the Brazilians never give up. So I ended up producing and promoting a night in Austin, like an off night for South by Southwest with some Brazilian artists last year. And it was really nice. We made some good contacts in the market, and one of the bands is already touring the West Coast, and is straining the presence in the U.S. market and with the U.S. audience. So my question is, how do you believe we can it's a really big investment to go to Austin to make like a year-long plan to go to America and to play, to perform to South by Southwest, and maybe to book a few more gigs around the date. So the investment is pretty much like the cost of a new album for most of the independent bands here in Brazil. So how do you think we can surf and we can stand out of the crowd, the huge crowd that attends to the South by Southwest, to maximize our investment and to better take advantage of playing there and to be there in the window?
You know, that's actually kind of a big question, and I don't like to. I can't really take a question that big because honestly, what I was saying before, as a manager, when I manage a band that wants to play at South by Southwest, then I have to understand exactly what we're after, and I like to kind of compartmentalize it a little bit and saying, are we looking for a booking agent? Are we looking for just to reach some festival promoters and more at the independent label, like just people who book clubs who could just book us directly without a booking agent, or label or publisher or sync or whatever. So probably to answer that question better, I would need to know more specifically what you're looking for, because you would want to see if you could use South by Southwest to target that. Because I've worked with major label acts, I've worked with acts that have really nothing going on at all, but we always have it's a very big question to say how can we use South by Southwest to get ahead. I'd rather the question be like, okay, my band has done X, Y, Z, and we haven't gotten a booking agent. Why? That would be an easier or we want to get a booking agent. Now what are we going to have to do to get a booking agent? I mean, actually, if you're playing a lot of shows, booking agents actually in America, booking agents, and you probably know this because you spend time in the States, but booking agents are very different than booking agents are in Brazil, because in Brazil and in a lot of countries in Latin America and also a lot of European countries outside of the Anglo-American territories, booking agents tend to function in a lot of roles as a manager or as a manager/booking agent. In the States, a manager is one thing, a booking agent is another thing. They just book shows, they take 10%, they don't do anything else. And so because of that, they want to make money. And even in a free show, even if you're playing a free to the public show, you have to have a perceived draw for that festival to say, okay, well, we'll spend $10,000 on this band because we know 5,000 people in our community will come and see them. So if you want to get a booking agent, then these West Coast gigs, what kind of rooms are you playing? Are you selling 150 tickets a night? Are you selling 250 tickets a night? I mean, if you're selling 1,000 tickets a night at pretty mid-sized to sort of large-sized clubs on the West Coast, I think about 10 booking agents will be coming after you like right away, because many booking agents, there's some booking agents that are total hipsters and like to curate things based on their musical taste, but there's a lot of booking agents that just want to have a circuit of a group of bands that make money selling tickets. So I'd have to know a little bit more specifically.
I'm super curious to know what your bands are. So I want you to tell me after. And I have an excuse too, because like Tracy said, I'm just now taking the lead on Brazil. So it's not my fault. But I will say another thing that, another misconception that happens a lot, and it's not always true. There's no hard and fast rule. But sometimes when you do come and you produce an unofficial event, a lot of people who produce unofficial shows during that, during South by Southwest, they feel that they have a lot of success with them, right? And they're like, I don't understand, because we came and we did an unofficial night and it was packed and people loved it and people were happy. And that very well may be the case, but it's not always the case that the people that are in there that are happy, that love the band, are these industry people. They might be local people, or they might be, maybe they're even Brazilian heritage if you promoted it as some kind of Brazilian night, and so they're local, and they want to come out, or they're fans of music and the other shows are too hard to get into, so they go to unofficial things because they don't buy badges, things like that. Things that can really skew the perspective of what kind of success that you might be having as an unofficial event. Like I said, it's not a hard and fast rule, but that's kind of the different experience that we're trying to provide when we're doing the official showcases. Because there are limitations to admission. We're letting the badges in priorities to try to ensure that if an industry person wants to get in to see this band that they can, then it's the wristband second. Then if there's capacity, then the fans can come and pay a cover at the door. So that's just kind of something I want to bring up right away because I have that conversation a lot with people. The other thing is, let's say you get into the official fold, despite having specific goals, which I think is very important, like Mark was saying, if you are bringing a whole show of artists from a particular region, then I think it's also helpful to find out if these other entities, if these other businesses, export offices, funding bodies, et cetera, are attending, if they're promoting their own attendance. And oftentimes we find that the left hand's not talking to the right. So maybe they don't even know that you're there or that a collective of labels is also there doing their own initiative. But if they knew, they would maybe give some slice of that pie to help cross-promote you, because that means that they're promoting to the professionals within whatever other activations that they're doing. And they're, a lot of times I find in some countries as well, like some people just don't also regionally don't speak to each other for whatever reason or something, but sometimes those bridges those gaps can be bridged at South by Southwest because everybody, especially when they're coming from the same place, they want to be cool by association, so they want to put the bands on their stuff if they're promoting certain things.
Yeah, I think even if you were thinking about organization, let's say you could get several states involved. Forget the federal government, but even if you could get, Rio and São Paulo, or you got Porto Alegre, Rio, São Paulo, and you had some state entities or municipal entities or even brands that are located in those states to say, we're going to put together a night, and you're the coordinator of that, like you get them interested, and then you come to me and say, hey, TRACY, we've got this backing, we've got a really good slate of bands. I still have to take it to STACEY. I still have to have the curation staff say, okay, we think this is going to fill a club, and it's not just going to be one guy in the back. But we can work on things like that to bring you inside and not leave you in the unofficial space. So more questions?
Oi.
Okay. Hello.
Oi, meu nome é Bruno, eu sou de Maceió. Eu tenho uma banda que se chama Osh. Em 2009, a gente participou do South by Southwest.
Okay, he played at South by Southwest in 2009. He's from the north.
E, assim, primeiro eu queria agradecer porque a gente sentiu muito carinho da organização do evento. E para a gente, mesmo tendo uma carreira de 17 anos de banda, tocar para públicos de 10 mil, 20 mil pessoas, as 200 pessoas que a gente tocou no SXSW foi a experiência mais incrível que a gente teve até hoje. O que eu queria perguntar a vocês...
I thought this was going to go south. I was like, oh my God, what are you setting us up for?
O que eu queria perguntar a vocês é o seguinte, como a gente tocou em 2009, né, e a gente chegou lá sem experiência, porque era uma coisa nova para a gente, e a gente ficou meio que assustado com tudo que estava acontecendo, mas que, assim, dizer para quem perguntou o que se ganha quando tem lá, você tem uma experiência fantástica, você volta com uma bagagem muito grande, você consegue, sim, ter um feedback muito bom quando você chega aqui no Brasil. O que eu queria perguntar a vocês é o seguinte, a gente que tocou em 2009, se existe um critério para quem já participou, pode participar novamente?
Yes and no. So basically, if you have performed at South by Southwest before, there's going to be sort of this additional layer of consideration, which is a closer look at what has happened in between those times to warrant bringing you back again. Sometimes you'll see that bands have played consecutive years, and they might be, because they might be releasing a new record that year, and then the next year they're signing with a different label, and they want to come and do that, and then maybe the next year they're going on to the festival circuit. So for some, for that person, or artist, 3 years in a row made sense because they have something to do. But we'll always look back to see how did that artist perform when they were here, and what's different since that time. It's also not a guarantee that if you were invited once, that you're already invited again, even if you have something new going on. Because, like I said earlier, it is still subjective. And when you change years, you're a few years later, whatever, and if the artist is still making the same kind of music and something's happening in the kind of music universe that at that time, and it seems to be going in a different direction, maybe we have smaller. Maybe as a programming team, we're looking more towards a different style. So nothing's a given, but it also doesn't mean that just because you played before that you won't play again either. It's just a little bit more of that, a little bit more scrutiny, honestly, sometimes to see really exactly what has developed in that time. But I'm glad you had such a good experience.
Yeah, that's great.
Bye.
Next question?